1993, the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup, and conveniently enough, that was the same year that Gary Bettman became commissioner of the NHL. Definitely just a coincidence there and nothing more to read about. It has been over 30 years since we had a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup. That is just straight embarrassing. And you're probably wondering why Connor McDavid is sitting there on my screen staring at me so sexy. Today, I'm going to bring back the Quebec Nordiques to see if we can win a Stanley Cup and bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada for the first time in 30 years, breaking the curse that Gary Bettman has on Canadian NHL teams. But there is a twist. I have combined all the Canadian NHL teams into one, so we have a Canadian super team built here in Quebec City. On the first line, we have Austin Matthews at a 94, Connor McDavid 99, and Mitch Marner 92. On the second line, we have Leon Draisaitl, Elias Pettersson, and Alex DeBrincat at 88, 96, and 91. Our third line consists of Brady Tkachuk at an 89, Elias Lindholm 89, and Willie Nee at an 89. And for our fourth line, we have Ryan O'Reilly down the middle at an 87, Blake Wheeler, and Evander Kane. That is a lethal forward core, probably the best forward core in the entire NHL. Moving on to our defense, our top pair is Quinn Hughes at a 90 and Josh Morrissey at an 89. We also have Morgan Rielly 88, Evan Bouchard as our second pair. He's definitely going to be getting that Bouch bomb on, baby. And finally, we have Thomas Chabot at an 87 and Jacob Chikrin at an 86. So our D core is very good as well. And in the net, we have absolute superstar. That is Connor Hellebuyck at a 91 overall. And our backup is Ilya Samsonov at an 86. So that is very good 1-2 punch there. This team is made up of every single Canadian NHL team. Now we are going to simulate and try to win a Stanley Cup, bringing it back to Canada for the first time in over 30 years. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. Why not help us get there? I know this is going to be crazy, but hear me out. At the end of year number 1, the Quebec Nordiques are going to have a 53, 24, and 5 record, finishing second in the Central, only behind the Colorado Avalanche, who went 53, 22, and 7. Basically identical records. They have 2 more overtime losses than us, and conveniently enough, they finished with 2 more points than us. We would end up finishing 3rd in the entire NHL, only behind Carolina and Colorado. And the New Jersey Devils were the worst team in all of hockey this year, going 26, 45, and 11, finishing dead last with 63 points. That is tough. You have Jack Hughes on your team and you're finishing dead last in the NHL. Absolutely no surprise here, as McDavid leads their team in points with 97, followed by Mitch Marner's 82. Matthews had 79, DeBrincat 77, Nylander, Draisaitl had 71, Brady Tkachuk 60. For goals, McDavid would be tied with DeBrincat for the most goals on her team. Alex DeBrincat tying with Connor McDavid for the most goals on the Quebec Nordiques. That is something special. Followed by Brady Tkachuk's 33, Matthews had 33, Draisaitl 24, Lindholm had 23. Quinn Hughes had the most points on her team for a defenseman with 51. He only had 6 goals but 45 assists. Looking at our goalies, Connor Hellebuyck went 49, 20, and 4, having 3 shutouts, an 891 save percentage, and a 293 goals against average. That is not very good, buddy. 74 games. He played basically every game of the season. Samsonov will go 4, 5, and 1, 889 save percentage, and a 331 goals against average. The Oilers, Connor McDavid would have the most points in the NHL with 110, followed by our Connor McDavid. Mikko Rantanen had 96, Alex Ovechkin had 95, Svechnikov 95, Leon Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon, the GOAT, Marty Necas. He seems to be doing better and better every simulation I do. 93 points, 28 goals. For goals, Nikita Kucherov had the most at 51, followed by Nathan McKinnon's 49, Oilers McDavid at 49, Patty Kane had 48, Ovi 44, Matthews 42, Pasta 40, and then Sidney Crosby and Kyle Connor both had 40. And we're going to be playing the Minnesota Wild in round number 1. Yes, we are in the Western Conference because I took out the Arizona Coyotes because they are not going to be winning anything. They are a terrible franchise that doesn't deserve an NHL team. So I eliminated them and put Quebec in their spot. So Quebec's going to be in the Western Conference because I didn't want to eliminate any Canadian team just in case they won the Stanley Cup. And in the very first season, we are already in the Stanley Cup final against the Carolina Hurricanes. We've already done more than Arizona has ever done in their franchise's history. Now, can we bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada, baby? Unfortunately, we would end up losing to Carolina in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. That one is definitely going to sting. For the playoffs, Connor McDavid had the most points on our team with 36. He also had 12 goals, followed by Mitch Marner 28, Matthews had 23, Pettersson 19, Draisaitl 19. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid. Quinn Hughes would take home the Norris. Jack Quinn would take home the Calder. Marty Necas would take home the Conn Smythe. Ilya Sorokin Sorokin would take home the Vezina, and Bo Horvat would take home the Selke. At the end of year number 2, Quebec will finish with a 57-19-6 record, finishing first in the entire NHL over the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Colorado Avalanche, the Edmonton Oilers, but none were better than Quebec, baby. Sadly, Chicago was the worst team in the NHL with a 23-47-12 record. McDavid would absolutely explode this season. 64 goals, 137 points. He would obviously lead our team in goals and points, followed by Mitch Marner's 83, Quinn Hughes at 81, Elias Pettersson 79, Leon Draisaitl 76, Austin Matthews at 69, Elias Lindholm 57. For goals, oh my god, there was almost a 30-goal gap between first and second place. Draisaitl came in second on our team with 32 goals, and McDavid had 64. That is insane. Followed by Pettersson's 29, Matthews 29, DeBrincat 27, and Mitch Marner 26. Connor Hellebuck will go 43, 17, and 4, having 2 shutouts, an 8.94 save percentage, and a 3.01 goals against average. While Samsonov will go 14, 2, and 2, 1 shutout, a 9.17 save percentage, and a 2.35 goals against average. Not bad stats by either goalies, to be honest. Maybe Connor Hellebuck could have had a better save percentage and goals against average. That's kind of tough. Samsonov played very well in the limited amount of games that he did play. He only played 20 games, so he can't really take much from that. Obviously, McDavid had the most goals and points in the entire NHL, followed by Oilers' Connor McDavid. GOAT Nathan MacKinnon had 111, Johnny Hockey had 102, Mitch Marner 102, Kucherov, Matthews, Draisaitl, and Ovechkin. For goals, other than McDavid, it was Ovi at 57, then the other McDavid at 56, Matthews at 51, Nathan MacKinnon had 46, Kaprizov 45, Philip Forsberg 44, and we're going to be playing Gary Bettman's favorite team in the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights, in round number 1. We would end up losing in the conference finals to San Jose in 6 games, and the Rangers, they would go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat San Jose in 6 games in the Stanley Cup final. For the playoffs, McDavid yet again leads our team in points with 30. He also had 12 goals. Draisaitl had 17, Mitch Marner 16, Matthews 14, only 4 goals. For one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, that is not good enough. Connor McDavid is the greatest player of all time. Quinn Hughes with another Norris Trophy. Panarin would take home the Conn Smythe somehow. I have no idea how this guy's absolutely terrible in the playoffs. This guy, yet again, I have no idea how to say his last name, but he took home the Vezina. And Bergeron would take home the Selke. At the end of year number 3, Quebec is going to have a 50, 24, and 8 record, finishing first in the Central, and they would finish second in the entire NHL, only behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, who went 57, 23, and 2. McDavid would lead our team in points with 120, followed by Elias Pettersson's 86, Mitch Marner 79, Leon Draisaitl 72, Timmy Stu, or Jimmy, had 66, Matthews had 62, Quinn Hughes 42. For goals, McDavid had 45, leading our team, followed by Matthews, who had 40, Leon Draisaitl had 38, Elias Pettersson 26, and Mitch Marner 26. For goalies, Connor Hellebuck went 39, 18, and 6, having 5 shutouts, a 903 save percentage, and a 275 goals against average. Samsonov went 11, 7, and 2, 1 shutout, a 9 save percentage, and a 280 goals against average. Our Connor McDavid would lead the entire NHL in points, followed by Mark Scheifele, who had 102. Brad Marchand had 96, Nikolai Ehlers 94, Leon Draisaitl 92, past the 92, and Tage Thompson. Wow, we only had 2 100-point scores in the NHL this season. For goals, Alex Ovechkin at age 39 had the most with 49 goals, followed by our Connor McDavid 45, Kyle Connor had 45, Matthews 45, and McKinnon, the GOAT, with 44. And we will be playing the newest team in the NHL besides us, basically, the Seattle Kraken, in round number 1. And just like that, we are back in the Stanley Cup final again against the Carolina Hurricanes. This time, can we please get it done and bring a Stanley Cup back to Canada? And somehow in the Stanley Cup final, we are going to blow a 3-1 lead and lose in game 7? Are you kidding me right now? Like, how is this happening? We have an absolutely loaded roster. How are we choking like this? Stützle would actually lead our team in points for the playoffs. He only had 7 goals but 23 assists for 30 points in 21 games, followed by Connor McDavid 16 goals and 26 points. Austin Matthews had 18 points and 10 goals. Mitch Marner had 17, Leon Draisaitl 15, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes. McDavid would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, while Ovi, he would take home the Maurice Richard. Adam Fox would take home the Norris. Jack Hughes would take home the Lady Byng. Leo Carlson would take home the Calder. Your mom's a host, Sebastian Aho, would take home the Conn Smythe. Igor would win the Vezina, and Crosby would take home the Selke. The Quebec Nordiques would have a 63, 17, and 2 record, finishing first in the Central, and we would finish first in the entire NHL as we have one of the greatest seasons in NHL history, followed followed by the New Jersey Devils had 55 wins, followed by the New Jersey Devils who had 55 wins. Buffalo had 52, Edmonton 50. Yet again, Chicago is the worst team in the NHL, going 27, 50, and 5. That is one terrible record. I mean, come on now. Connor McDavid is Connor McDavid as he has 61 goals at 139 points, leading our team, followed by Mitch Marner's 106, Elias Pettersson 84, Quinn Hughes at 78, Leon Draisaitl, William Nylander, Auston Matthews. For goals, yet again, it was a huge gap between first and second place. McDavid had 61, the next closest was Draisaitl's 36, Marner had 33, Pettersson 29, Matthews 27. For goalies, Hellebuck went 46, 13, and 2, having 5 shutouts, a 912 save percentage, and a 243 goals against average. That is a very good season by him, especially the 5 shutouts and a 912 save percentage. Obviously, McDavid had the most points in the NHL, followed by Sidney Crosby's 107 at 38 years old. Our Mitch Marner had 106, Cole Caulfield had 104, Auston Matthews 100, and Patrick Laine. For goals, Auston Matthews on the Toronto Maple Leafs actually had more goals at 68, followed by our Connor McDavid 61, Alex Ovechkin 53, the other Connor McDavid, Patrick Laine, and Tage Thompson. And we are going to be playing the LA Kings in round number 1. You literally cannot make this up. We are back in the Stanley Cup final again against the Carolina Hurricanes. For the 3rd time, we've lost the last 2 times against them. Please, for the love of God, do not lose this and go down 3-0 to them in the Stanley Cup final. And finally, the Quebec Nordiques are Stanley Cup champions as they beat Carolina in 5 games in the Stanley Cup final. And we have finally brought back the Stanley Cup to Canada. For the first time in over 30 years, a Canadian team is a Stanley Cup champion. Connor McDavid is your Conn Smythe winner. He's been our best player basically the entire simulation. And here comes Captain Connor McDavid coming to lift the Stanley Cup for a Canadian team for the first time in over 30 seasons that a Canadian team is Stanley Cup champions. We have finally done it. We have basically shoved our middle finger up Gary Bettman's ass and told him to suck it as we lift the Stanley Cup in Canada for the first time since 1993. The Quebec Nordiques are Stanley Cup champions. For the playoffs, McDavid only had 7 goals but 30 assists for 37 points in 21 games, followed by Mitch Marner's 31. He also had 14 goals. Quinn Hughes would have 0 goals but 20 assists. Elias Pettersson 19 points. Nylander 19. Look at that, man. The Quebec Nordiques Stanley Cup champions. First Stanley Cup for Canada in over 30 years. McDavid would take home the Ted Lindsay, the Art Ross, and the Hart Trophy, while Matthews would take home the Maurice Richard. Quinn Hughes with another Norris Trophy, his 3rd of the simulation. Cole Caulfield would take home the Lady Byng. McDavid obviously took home the Conn Smythe. Connor Hellebuck would take home the Vezina, and Bo Horvat would take home the Selke. Now, we have already accomplished our goal of winning a Stanley Cup, bringing the Stanley Cup back to Canada, but let's keep simulating and see how many Stanley Cups we can truly win with this absolutely stacked Canadian team. We might actually become the next great Canadian dynasty. The Quebec Nordiques would have a 53, 24, and 5 record, finishing first in the Central yet again, and they were the 2nd best team in the NHL, only behind the New Jersey Devils, who went 55, 19, and 8. The Minnesota Wild would finish dead last in the entire NHL with 54 points, going 23, 51, and 8. Connor McDavid would lead our team in points yet again. He had 104, followed by Mitch Marner's 90. Leon Draisaitl had 72, Quinn Hughes 70, Elias Pettersson 65, Nylander 65. For goals, McDavid had the most at 49, followed by Draisaitl's 34, Matthews 33, Timmy Stu 26, and Mitch Marner 26. For goalies, Connor Hellebuck went 32, 17, and 4. He had 7 shutouts, a 911 save percentage, and a 243 goals against average. That is by far his best season of this simulation. He was absolutely a brick wall this season. The Oilers' Connor McDavid would have the most points in the NHL with 128, followed by Leon Draisaitl 108, Sidney Crosby, our Connor McDavid with 104, Mitch Marner 102, Matthew Tkachuk 102, William Nylander had 100, Matthews had 98. Again, the Oilers' Connor McDavid had the most goals with 54, followed by Patrick Laine, who had 52, and Drew Seabrook had 51. Who is this guy? 20 years old? He's only in his 2nd season in the NHL. He had 32 last year and he has 51 this year. Jesus Christ, he was a minus 27 last season. That is tough. Followed by Alex Ovechkin, who had 50, Leon Draisaitl 49, our Connor McDavid 49, and Timo Meier 47. Don't forget about Bedsy 47. And we are going to be playing the Anaheim Ducks in round number 1. And somehow we would lose to the Anaheim Ducks in 6 games in the very first round. How does that even happen, man? And the Florida Panthers are going to go on to win the Stanley Cup as they beat the Oilers in 7 games in the Stanley Cup final. The Oilers' Connor McDavid is the best player in the world. Quinn Hughes would take home the Norris. Matthew Tkachuk would take home the Conn Smythe. Connor Hellebuck with another Vezina. And Bo Horvat with another Selke trophy. And that will do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And remember, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.